All right. And we're back here on Couch Coach Live here on a Wednesday night under the lights here on Couch Coach Live. What's going on, Maui?
What's going on, man? How are
Hey, man.
you
Hey.
doing? How are you feeling?
I'm good, man. It's a weird feeling to be in. Obviously, as we talk about, we
Right,
talk about the Commander shortly.
right,
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, it's been a hell of a ride. It's. I'm not gonna lie. It's been kind of an emotional couple weeks. So as far as just because I mean,
right,
the thing about it is, I try to be objective, but we all know that at some
right,
point when it comes to the teams, you do somewhat have a bias. For me,
right,
especially for the NFC Championship game coming up, um, I try not to be hyperbolic about the situation, but but a situation like this, I've been literally waiting my whole life for a
right,
moment like this. I mean, you think to
right,
yourself, the last time this team was in the NFC Championship game was in 1990, the 1991 season, which was in
right,
January of 1992, and
right,
I was 7 years old at back then, didn't know what was going on at the time. So just
right,
imagine now, fast forward at 40, and I've been waiting literally my whole life for Sunday essentially. So
right,
it's been a fun ride. So I'm I'm on cloud nine. I'll be honest
right,
with you.
right.
Yeah, yeah. So
Congratulations, man.
yeah, man. Hey, it's like that. So but yeah. So we got a great show lined up for you tonight.
Hmm.
We'll talk about Ohio State winning the Natty. You called that 35-28 win, which was very close. I mean, what, 4 points on the other end, five on the other. What was it? What she had 35-28. So you were
Hmm.
close. So if you put a little money on it, you might even walk away with a little bit of change
Right,
potentially.
right,
But
right,
so we'll talk about Ohio State winning the Natty. Um, as we talked about early in this show, the Commanders advanced into the NFC Championship game, obviously with
right,
a win over Detroit last Saturday, which now Detroit is eliminated from the playoffs, and two of their top assistants have gotten coaching jobs within the last 24 hours. We'll discuss that. We'll talk about Ben Johnson going to Chicago and Aaron Glenn going to New York. Our divisional round takeaways. We'll also somewhat kind of do a quasi preview of the championship game. We'll talk about our storylines and some individual players to watch in these two matchups on Saturday. And we'll do our
right.
picks, and we'll round off with giving our game ball this week. So what we're going to do, we're going to kick that intro right quick, and we'll be right back here on Couch Coach Live. And we are back here on Couch Coach Live. This week's Couch Coach Live is powered by SeatGeek. Head over to SeatGeek.com. Use our promo code Couch Coach to get yourself $20 off your first purchase by using SeatGeek. So we got to talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes. Let's talk about them here, where they won their ninth championship, beating Notre Dame 34-23. Ohio State, they won it in this new 12-team college football playoff format.
Hmm.
And if you remember, in the 14 playoff format, they were the first winners of that as well. So what's your thoughts on I guess you could consider that your hometown team in a sense. I mean,
Yeah,
hey, you have
yeah,
Ohio, we're not gonna do no
yeah.
Le'Veon Bell just and Bow Wow tonight. So, you from
Right.
we can't. Yeah, if you from Ohio, you can take this win. So
Right,
Le'Veon Bell, yeah, don't get on Bow Wow.
right. Um, my mom lives up there now. Saying it's my brother's favorite team. Um, I'm gonna say this, man. Like when I watched the game and then we was having the show, I watched the highlights, and to me, it was going back and forth. Notre Dame went out there, had that 10-minute run, possession, and it seemed like they had it under control. But when you really watch the game, Ohio State had control because they hit you in every way. If you look at the stats, Notre Dame could not run the ball. Even though the quarterback ran the ball, he actually I think was the highest. He had the most rushing yards on their team. But when you look at Ohio State, their quarterback ran the ball, their receivers ran the ball. Even if I think one of the receivers had negative yards, but still they just kept them. They just established the run. And truth be told, that's exactly how they won the game. It opened up the pass game, just like that run. I think it was in the second half where the quarterback ran and you thought he was going to scramble because the first half he really was running on him all over him and he was able to throw it into the touchdown. I felt like when Henderson they let him run the ball. He ran so aggressively. I think it really opened everything up for the run game. But yeah, man, shout out to them. Notre Dame was getting spanked in the first half and they made a run back. I think all sports fans that watched the game, even especially the people that gambled on the game, it sure had them sweating, their forehead sweating. Let me see, total yards. Everything was really Ohio State when you really look at it. Everything was meant for them to run. And the main thing was the Notre Dame just could not establish the run. So, for me, while I was also looking up everything, it just seemed like I don't feel like Ohio State's getting their shine, their flowers like they should. It just seemed like everybody's talking about Michigan and everybody's because that was the last game they lost was against Michigan. And it seemed like everybody just talk about Notre Dame. Like I was watching the game with some females, they was talking about the coach and how his edge up was, and and how and how this program is. The coach has reestablished this program, and it's going to be great moving forward. It just seemed like everything is going, and they're not really giving Ohio State what they deserve. And so I really wanted your take on that. But I will say this. I think from what I'm seeing right now in all sports, a lot of old coaches, it's almost like it's time for them to go. It seems like a lot of these young coaches is really starting to make their move. But yeah, congratulations on Ohio State. Actually, what I'm saying? Congrats both teams. Great game.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing when and I'll answer those questions momentarily, but yeah, I think it's just one of those where Notre Dame had that opening run. Obviously, Riley Leonard, he had 9 runs on the 18-play drive, so he pretty much kind of willed him, and he was exhausted because after he got off, he threw up, and it's crazy like how it felt like once they got back on the field, they were taking those run opportunities away from him. So it's like, he pretty much essentially was a passer, but then obviously,
right.
And then Ohio State just charged, and you think to yourself, those 3 touchdowns by Quinshawn Judkins. I think he had 2 runs and then a touchdown. Then also coupled with the first touchdown that Ohio State had with Jeremiah Smith, the freshman, the super freshman. That's amazing. That's another one where it was funny because on a Notre Dame DB pointed because he knew he was going to be what I call it as what would I consider him? He was more so like a I forgot what can't find the words for it, but he was more like a decoy.
Decoy,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
so then essentially they seen as like then DB point like no you got to focus on him and then of course people saying well he should have got him like no then he would have left somebody else wide open like
Mm-hmm.
that's what they should have that's from that yeah Notre Dame did make it a game in the second half obviously the
Mm-hmm.
two late touchdowns and then Ohio State pretty much hitting that field goal at the end to kind of kind of put a cherry on top of the win. I think the thing with Ohio State is like that, like haters are gonna hate. Like I understand,
Right.
yes, they did lose to Michigan, but I think sometimes people fail to realize you have to go through some form of adversity. Do I necessarily think that if they would have beat Michigan, that they would have kind of rest on their laurels and potentially got caught and slipped up? No. I think it's just one of those things where it just happened. I understand like this whole Michigan thing, and that's cool because guess what? The beautiful thing about next year, this is gonna be great for Saturday after Thanksgiving. You have literally the two teams that have won a national championship in consecutive years, and that's gonna make a great for the Saturday after Thanksgiving. But I don't understand the gripes behind all this because considering the fact, yes, they won 4 consecutive games. People don't understand like that's even more difficult because I even gave them praise even when they in that 2014 2015 season where the field got expanded to 4. You think to yourself at the time because they had a hell of a run to get to there. So I mean, I don't get the hate. And then even when the whole thing of if Ryan Day would have lost to Tennessee, and I'm thinking to myself, even if he have lost to Tennessee, the timing of him getting fired, you're gonna fire him on a holiday week when Christmas on smack them on a Wednesday. You're gonna fire somebody essentially 2 or 3 days before Christmas. Who's coming for an interview that week? And then the transfer portal situation, I think you had the deadline was December the 28th, December the 29th. So you didn't have time. So what I've guys, how can you hire somebody so quick and then be able to put this new coach in a predicament where it's like, hell, I'm gonna have to, force these kids to kind of to jump off the jump out the window essentially going to the portal. So I didn't believe that mess either. I like if they didn't make the playoffs, yeah, I think maybe Ryan Day would have got fired, but he made it, and it is what it is. And I understand, yeah, you lose Michigan. I mean, you can say the same thing for Jim Harbaugh, but what ended up happening to Jim Harbaugh? He ended up eventually making it. And he ended up, start beating Ohio State, and now look where he's at. So I mean, yeah, people are going to hate, but I still think this is a great accomplishment. I mean, for you to win 4 straight games, you beat Tennessee, you go to the Rose Bowl, you demolish Oregon, you avenge your first loss, then you go to Texas in Dallas and you beat them. And then you go here and you beat a Notre Dame team. And I understand like Notre Dame and Lloyd. I'm really not a person that really divulge into my personal business. But in that span of Marcus Freeman being at Ohio at Notre Dame, I think I dated maybe like 3 or 4. I'll put it this way, 3 women. And we've watched football together, and they're always looking at. I swear they look up him on Google. They're like, "Oh, who is this guy?" Because I don't know if you guys remember. And I remember one girl I was dating like 2 years ago. She loved Sam Hartman, and Sam Hartman obviously he was a quarterback at Notre Dame at the time. And currently he's with the Washington Commanders, but. Just that combination, yeah. And they'll be like, "Oh, he got 6 kids. Look at his wife." Every woman in America loves Marcus Freeman. I've learned that. Death taxes and women love Marcus Freeman, and that's just it is what it is. I mean,
the 2 girls I was with, the 2 girls I was with, one was watching the game, the other was like, "Oh, he got a real nice edge up." You know what I mean? So I was like. I mean, he definitely did. He get hit with the razor, didn't he? Like, what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
mean, they love Marcus Freeman. They'll be like, "Well, what's his name?" And I remember they would Google who he is and found out all this stuff because I think I probably know more about Marcus Freeman through the women that I have dated, as far as from he has 6 kids, he's married, they've aged like, but I know he played for Ohio State back in the day. He used to have a cup of coffee with the Bears. I knew that type of stuff, and obviously he was
Mm-hmm.
coaching at Ohio State. But I didn't know all this other stuff until obviously So yeah, they love Marcus Freeman.
Right.
But Notre Dame had a good future. I think, especially now with this 12-team playoff, I definitely think they will always have a shot at making the playoffs. They're good spots. And then you think yourself, if they advance, obviously they get money. And versus the other conferences like Ohio State, they have to share that with the Big Ten versus Notre Dame. They
Mm-hmm.
get all that money. So that's going to be opening up opportunities for them to definitely be for facilities, NIL money. So Notre Dame is going to be Notre Dame is going to be Notre Dame. Notre Dame is always going to be around. You're going to kind of be sick of them. You're going to be kind of bombarded and kind of like in the media will make a draw of that as well. And of course, they got the NBC money, so they're not going nowhere. People say they need to join the conference. No, they're smart. They know because they got NBC money. They're good. They're
Right.
good, and they stand alone. They don't have to compete. They stand alone. So
Nope.
yeah,
6 kids, huh? Dang.
yeah. Shots out, I got wild card. What's going on, man? Might see you in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, man. Randy,
I should have known he was gonna
Randy
slide.
never.
I should have known he was gonna slide up in here today.
Yeah, and the Moss Point, yeah, they definitely need to get that extension ready for it because at the end of the day, he's done it in this time period. Because I think even before when we knew that the 12-team playoff was going to happen, we knew like, hey, these teams are going to have a gauntlet. Like whoever comes out, you're adding 2 or 3 games to your schedule, and especially considering the fact Ohio State getting in as an 8 seed and having to literally have to play 4 games in a row. So this is a great win for them, for sure. So yeah, I know people hate and all this time, but I know, but hey, shout out to them, and
Right.
yeah. So we gotta talk about, and this one thing I'm always this is always like my favorite thing to talk about, like as far as when it comes to the coaching carousel. It just kind of shows you like kind of that new life it breeds with all this concern. So we have had some coaching moves. I know when we were here last week, I know Mike Vrabel was hired by the New England Patriots as the head coach. So we got some new NFL coaching carousel news so far in this go around this week. So I definitely think we'll be getting some more. And then obviously now the job opened up in Dallas. So we'll talk about that once they get a head coach. So we're gonna talk about Ben. So as we talked about it earlier, the reason why these guys are now available because some team from Washington beat them by 14 points on a Saturday night in Detroit. So essentially the Lions are at home, and now they've lost 2 assistants. We'll talk first about Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, the former offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, is now hired as the Chicago Bears head coach. He stays within the division. His offensive, as his pretty much in his tenure this year with the Detroit Lions, this team was number 1 and offensively, second in yards per game, and second in pass yards per game, and then second in time of possession. What's your thoughts on Ben Johnson going to the Bears?
Well, from listening to past Couch Coach lives, I hope he does well. But it just seemed like the organization has issues more than just constantly getting coaching and GM. It seemed like some things need to change inside the organization. But besides all that, he's speaking well. He seemed like he wants to work with Caleb, which I feel like the type of quarterback that Caleb is, you want to have a pretty good relationship. You know what I mean? He played against Caleb, so I'm sure he wants to stay in the division. And I love what he said. He was like, as a challenge there, he's playing. It's definitely going to be a interesting next season, story wise, because he's staying in the same division. And I don't know. I feel like thumbs up. But these coaches get there and they speak, and next thing you know, a year or two, then it'd be a dud, and it's the same scenario. But like I said, man, like he one of the most exciting teams in the last 3 years has been Lions, and they turned them around, and they had to go all in this season. When we first started, that was the thing that they said, that everybody was coming back. You know what I mean, for this season, and they ran into something special in that district. They ran into it's something special going on there. And I don't know, it must be the magic. I don't have a clue, but it's something special going on. And we're going to talk about it later because I got some details to speak on that game. But hey, man, I will say this. I hope everything goes well for him. They did a really, really, really great job with the Lions because the Lions, they were known for stinking. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, shout out to our guy Flo. I'll answer that question momentarily, but I think at this point I do like that the fact that they did transition from an defensive centric head coach. Obviously, when we haven't met Eberflus last time, obviously was the Colts DC once upon a time, and now he's gone with he was fired on Black Friday, coincidentally. But anyway, I do like this move for them. I mean, because you really want to, because pretty much the prime investment is Caleb Williams, and I think that was pretty much the sticking point to have him. And one thing with Caleb Williams, I think what's going to help him, I think you having a guy like a Ben Johnson, I think it help him. Hopefully, can help him like fundamentally, because I think if you look at Caleb Williams' numbers, they're not bad. I think considering the fact that we compare him to obviously Jaden Daniels and also what Bo Nix did, it's always going to look like, oh yeah, he's trash. But no, Caleb Williams has had great numbers for his rookie campaign, in my personal opinion, and I think that's going to help him. And I definitely think it's going to help the other guys around him. And if you look at, especially you look at like DeAndre Swift, I think he's going to have have a good resurgence with him. Roma Duzier, the wide receiver, and then also DJ Moore. I'm curious if Keenan Allen comes back, because I know he's a free agent, so it's going to be kind of interesting of how that goes. So I do like the move. Obviously, I guess I consider Ben Johnson a nephew because he went to the University of North Carolina, so quarterback back in the day. So I guess I consider Ben Johnson a nephew, even though we were a little sour turns last year because he called us basketball guys and he didn't take the job with us last year. But it's all good. We got what we need in DQ. So, no love lost with Ben Johnson. And to answer our guy Flo from the Bottom Line Sports, he probably will just be the head coach. I think he's gonna bring his offensive line coach, which I think that's gonna be great. I think he's gonna turn him into his offensive coordinator. So I think that's another thing too. I think he's gonna bring some guys around. So and then obviously with Ben Johnson helping potentially getting that offensive line, you see what he did as far as having that, Detroit has a great offensive line. Can he kind of, can they draft guys because at this point, that's all they really essentially need in the most part is getting that offensive line together so you can help Caleb Williams. I think one thing too, where I know a lot of people say where he hold on to the ball a lot, and I think that's another thing too, where I think Ben Johnson can help him with that. So I'm cool with it. I think sometimes too, where especially with him being young, I think he's only like 38. So I mean, especially the way this coaching market is, you got to. Especially you got one of the top offenses in the league, and he's an offensive coordinator. That's going to happen. I know, and I know. Me and Flo, we talked about this whole thing with Cliff Kingsbury potentially going somewhere. And, and it is what it is. So, but that's why I found that question very funny. And then so now transitioning from Detroit's offensive coordinator, we got to talk about the Lions defensive coordinator and Aaron Glenn. So Aaron Glenn now, he's heading to the New York Football Jets. He actually was a first round pick with this team in 1994. So he was drafted 31 years ago. The Detroit Lions defensively, they were fifth in interceptions and they were fifth against the run and seventh in scoring defense. So, what's your thoughts on Aaron Glenn going essentially at homecoming in a sense and playing and coaching for the Jets? What you got?
Yeah, I think when you're trying to turn a franchise around, I think that's one of the main things you want to do is get somebody that has some type of root there. So he is a Jet. He was drafted by me. I think he played there for like 7, 8 years. He worked his way up. Assistant coach for the Bears. Defensive back coach, I think, for the Saints, and then defensive coordinator for the Lions. I mean, happy for him, man. Like, I just maybe you can answer the question. I'm trying to figure out when you got defensive guys like him being head coaches, you got to make sure you got a good offensive coordinator, man. And then you kind of look at it like, is Aaron Rodgers going to stay there, or should they figure out a way to get a new phenom quarterback? I think it's all positive to me. I'm looking at the Texans, and I thought about this earlier, how I could tie this together. If you really pay attention, the Jets has always been drama. So to me, if you go back and look at the Texans and their success that they've had since they hired their coach, that was a defensive coordinator also, right? For San Francisco, right?
Yeah, DeMeco Ryans. Yeah.
So nobody talks about any of that drama since he's been there and they've had success. So I'm hoping Aaron Glenn gets there. He does the same thing for the Jets, where they just start taking necessary steps to be successful so they can get rid of all the stuff that has happened in the past. You know what I mean? Winning and being successful, or just making it to the playoffs. That's the first step. Get to the playoffs. Wild card. Get to play, win a playoff game. And then that kind of starts wiping, everything clean. You know what I mean? So I think it's a good look, man. You know what I mean? Like, start brand new. Stop trying to get, other, head coaches and stuff like that, bringing old laundry in. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I'm shocked that they. Well, I'm not shocked, but more so, I know normally when there's a coaching change, it's like they go from one end to the other. Like we're looking like Chicago. We talked about Chicago. You have a guy like Matt Eberflus who's defensive centric, and now you go changes to offense. And then you look at kind of how they had a Robert Saleh, who essentially, as far as from a former defensive coordinator. To now getting Aaron Glenn, which I say the same thing last year about Washington getting Dan Quinn. So, it's one of those things where I think the biggest thing is, and I think, when you talk about as far as Aaron Rodgers, I think you get rid of Aaron Rodgers. I think you just start off anew and get a new quarterback. At this point, because he'll be 42 in December. So you think to yourself, you got to move on. This isn't a team that at this point, as we have seen with this Jets football team, they're not just the Aaron Rodgers away in a sense. They still need to get that franchise quarterback, in my personal opinion, which I don't know if they're going to get it in the draft. I doubt it, but I mean, they're going to have to get it in some form. And I think this is a move to kind of kick help. And obviously, if you get Aaron Rodgers, I think that could keep a guy like Garrett Wilson there. And then also I look at because the defense, and I think defensively they're going to be great because that wasn't the problem. That's why I find it odd that they got rid of the defensive centric head coach when the defense was doing its thing. And so it's kind of it feels kind of odd that almost like they're back in that same predicament, getting it. But I do like what he gonna do with that defense, especially considering the fact you look at guys like a Sauce Gardner. They got good young talent defensively and offensively as well. But you look at him, Quinn Williams. They got a nice young squad. I think one thing too. And I know I could say this till I'm blue in the face. They're the quarterback away, but I think, but you can really say that for everybody in a sense. So it's kind of where it's like, but in my personal opinion, I definitely do like this move. I definitely would have thought they probably would have went more offensive centric, but I think they have to get rid of Aaron Rodgers and they have to bring in a coach, and then like you said, they have to bring in, I think, an offensive wizard. Because I think Aaron Glenn, I think he can. Because I think the biggest thing that Aaron Glenn is going to do is going to create this culture, and then it's just and it's just going to, have it throughout the building. That's what he's going to do. He's going to create that culture, and then he needs to get that offensive guru, the offensive centric guy. So it's going to be curious who will be his offensive coordinator. And I think that's where I think once he gets that, then I think it would be more of a fair analysis once he gets that offensive coordinator, and if he gets the kind of the offensive guru or genius. So it's gonna be interesting how that's gonna play out, and then it's definitely what they do with Aaron Rodgers definitely gonna be something major. But I got a strange feeling, like I talked about it 2 weeks ago. I think he's retiring.
Yeah, you said that. Before we move on, can I get 2 or 3 offensive gurus you think he should get?
Off the top of my head, I don't even know who. I mean, if you think about as a current coordinators, I mean, I wouldn't think Cliff Kingsbury would leave. Would be good if he. Well, I don't know. He might not be around. He should get Clint Kubiak, because he was there. He was with San Francisco the Super Bowl year, and then he was the OC in New Orleans. Because I think he was a quarterback coach in San Francisco. I like him. So like a Clint Kubiak. If I can find a second one, it would be who else would be around? I think he would be like the leader in the clubhouse for me, because that's somewhat of a it's a lateral move. Not lateral, but it's a move that that would make sense for him because he could kind of still be where he's at. Who is at San Francisco? Or I don't know if they can't do Mike LaFleur because he was already there. But yeah, I think probably Clint Kubiak is probably the one I would if it was up to me, I think it would be Clint Kubiak.
You think what's his name? Kellen Moore? That's his name? You think he gonna be that? Is that his name?
Yeah, he going to Dallas.
Look like a little boy. He going to Dallas.
Yeah, he going to
Dallas.
I think he
to be the head coach.
I think in my person, I think he's gonna be the coach of Dallas. I think
he is too. Do you think when he was there, do you feel like him and Dak had more success than? I feel like Dak had a little more edge to him, a little more success when he was there. What do you think?
I mean, they obviously, because compared to obviously this year or what have you, but I think he was fairly successful because you think to yourself, he ended up got a job immediately once he left Dallas and went to the Chargers. So, and he would be one, but I think he's in a line of becoming a head coach because I think in my personal opinion, I think he's going to be the Dallas head coach. I know they've been interviewing a couple of guys all week, but I think in my heart of hearts, he's gonna be the head coach, or he's going for a head coach position. But yeah, I think if that's who
I
I would
always thought it
look
was
at
going
as
to be
far
him.
as him.
Always thought it was going to be him. I just felt like
Yeah,
I think they got Mike McCarthy because it was just Mike McCarthy at the time. But and if you had to pick between the two, I think you would pick Mike. But I felt like him going to the Chargers. I always felt that eventually he was going to be with Dak and be the head coach. I always felt that way.
yeah, because and I don't because I know with Ben Johnson, he's taking his offensive line coach. I don't because you wouldn't even. I don't even think. I wonder would he take any of his Will he take like Mark Brunell with him or Antoine Randall L with either with Ben or with Aaron Glenn? But yeah, it's gonna be interesting how he's gonna do his staff. But yeah, I think for sure it's gonna be Kellen Moore gonna be the leader of that clubhouse. I know there's been circulation of rumors that Dallas trying to get Anthony Lynn, who's our running back coach, used to be the coach for the Chargers. He with
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he gone for an interview. Or I know they requested or what have you. I'm not 100% sure, but that's another one that they're trying to kind of peer away from Washington, which that's gonna happen. That's kind of the beautiful thing about it. Even if hell, we was bad, we guys are leaving. You look at
Mm-hmm.
Sean McVay, Cal Shanahan, all those guys when we were horrible, they end up going on to wherever they need, to wherever they're at.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'm curious how Aaron Glenn's staff will be. So,
Right.
but yeah,
I think it's important.
um,
I think it's important. I think it's very
oh for sure,
important because he is because I the game that we watched he didn't look too good. You know what I mean? And they kept that camera on him. They kept that camera on him, and
yeah,
I speak about it in a
oh
little
yeah,
bit. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
and it is the Jets, and it's New York, man, and you know,
yeah. He'll get there. I think he'll be good. Got a good young squad. And I think and I think he can definitely build a culture. And I think guys be willing to run through a wall for him. So,
right?
um, yeah, I'm really curious about that. So, we gotta talk about the divisional round where we had essentially four great games in my personal opinion. Obviously, it started off with the Texans and the Chiefs. Chiefs won that matchup. Then we had the Commanders versus the Lions, where the Commanders won that game. And then we had two games on Sunday. We had the Eagles defeating the Rams, and then we also had the Bills defeating the Ravens. So, what was your divisional round takeaways?
Oh man, let me see. I put down. I feel like all games was great. I feel like in a lot of these games, Mother Nature had complete control. All you could do is figure your way through it. You know. Um, So let's start with the Chiefs. All year, man, we've been saying that the Chiefs have not scored more than 30 points, but they winning. They just keep winning, and it seems like they just slide their way through it, almost like they playing rope a dope. You know what I mean? They just figure their way. So I said, a lot of people still kind of like questioning, and they just need to let it go and to say these boys can really win. All the controversy with the referees, and I don't even know what to say, really, man. Like it's like they just always just figure out the Chiefs just figured out a way to win. It's so I'm just gonna move on from that one, man, because every time I watch them, it's hard to really embrace them with the people around you because it's always some controversy. You know what I mean? It's always something. It's like people complaining about holding or people complaining. You know what I mean? It's like you always see something, and I feel like I've been trying. Even when I was saying the wild card, I was like, man, it seemed like you can't even really embrace something that might be special. You know what I mean? Um, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on. The Rams versus the Eagles. I'm just gonna say snow. I think the the Rams really fought in this game, and it's weird because like they almost came back and they almost won. I felt like the O line at those last two mishaps is what messed the game up. I feel like they was. Um, I have a question for you. Do you think that Hurts might be hurt? That he might be injured?
I think he got a little nicked up because obviously you look at that play where he gave up that safety. I think you could just
Right,
tell like how he lacked the mobility, in that
right,
on that play for sure.
right. But I think the weather conditions really hurt everybody in that game. Um, but I've always felt like the Eagles it's still something there too. Like, but they got Saquon, and it's like Saquon did what he's supposed to do. You know what I mean? It's so from saying that, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the Ravens. I feel like he threw that pass to Andrews to tie the game up, but I think he really should have figured out a way to run and you know what I mean? Because it's when when you're dealing with snow, I don't know why everybody's trying to pass the ball. I feel like you need to run the ball. I feel like you need to establish. And with the Ravens and the Bills, Derrick Henry had 88 yards
Yep.
and he only ran 19 times. Anytime he runs, even if it's in the snow, if he gets 25 carries, they win. Um, but great game, all great games. And I'm really just trying to move forward because I really want to talk about my favorite game of this whole thing was just sitting there and watch this special game, and this game was so special to me just to see how poised this young man was, and just watch the lines, the offensive line, the defensive line, and just watch the defense, and just seemed like everybody take the extra step to make this win. It was just crazy, man. Like, so let's just say that the first half was masterful, right? I want to talk about the second half. The second half, the Lions defense actually got very, very, very aggressive. What I liked Jaden Daniels did, if you pay attention, he quarterback sneaked quite a few times. He ran. And even if it was 2 yards, if it was 1 yard, or he just ran out of bounds, he still got out of the pocket. And it seemed like once that happened, he started moving his feet, some other things start opening up. And they backed up. It seemed like they didn't get as much as aggressive as they were doing. It didn't work. It worked. I think they only punted like once. But anyway,
Yeah.
man, I think they punted like once, and that's when they punted. It was the second half. That was the first time they punted through the whole game, and it just didn't work. It's just like they had every answer. They had every answer the Lions tried to throw at them. They had something to come back, and it was just extremely masterful. It was just masterful, man. Like, I'm very happy for the city, man. Like, this is something special, and I think, and they still was humble. Like, I'm loving y'all fans too, man, because y'all kind of like, you see the game, yeah, blah 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 blah. So I'm gonna let you do your thing, man. But yeah, all these divisional games, I just felt like Mother Nature had control of a lot of these games, and some people capitalized, some people didn't.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway, I think all of it is really more so of missed opportunities. I think you can say this pretty much for
Mm-hmm.
most of these games. You look at like for Houston, we'll start off with Houston. Obviously you missed that field goal, you missed the field goal, you missed the extra point to tie the game, and that's where you start seeing like their plays, like as far as being, obviously having the opportunity to tie that game, it does change the complexity of the game. So you just look at it just from that standpoint, and then obviously, missing a huge field goal in that fourth quarter. It is just one of those where it's just like, Kansas City yet again, they find ways to win football games, and it's just an uncanny fashion. So it's just one of those concerns. And then obviously let's talk about the Commanders game. You look at Detroit, 5 turnovers. You look at 3 interceptions by Matthew Stafford. Lord, what am I talking about? Jared Goff. Jared Goff having 3 interceptions in this game, and then you just look at the play of the rookie Mikey Sandstrom, the Michigan man, 2 interceptions. Then you look at, obviously the fumble recovery. And it's funny because Detroit was a +9 all season in turnover margin. We always look at those type of teams when you are in that plus. I always used to say if you're in that +10, but I mean, you're at +9, your version at the +10. Those are really your successful teams in the league because they're the ones who really don't turn the football over as much. So for them to get that opportunity and then jump to that big lead and pretty much scoring 31 points in that first half, which is unreal. I know a lot of people didn't even think we were going to score 20-some points because obviously they looked at the Tampa Bay games like, well, you only scored 23, but we scored 45 in that game. So, just kudos to them. And then also I got to give a huge shout out to Quan Martin for his pick 6. So you just look at this fact that this offense produced literally, 38 points. So, that's you just think to yourself, wow, you're very hard pressed to get those amount of turnovers in one game. And then obviously, a turnover like that, you like Shannon Sharp said it all the time, when you have turnovers, it's almost like you're paying double for it. And you look at that's what happened in this game. And then fast forward to the Sunday game. This was an ugly win, and Philly was smart. I'm gonna tell you one thing: what they did was really sneakily smart. They got on the board quick. The quick 2 touchdowns before the snow started. I think because obviously, obviously they knew the snow was coming, but once it started really, coming down, and then you look at, they get the ugly win. Then you get that home run, that killer shot, and that's the thing what you talked about as far as Philly. They never had a guy like a Saquon. They never had a guy that can run a 70-something yard. I call him. I call like a home run hitting running back. You've had guys in that offense. Yeah, they can go off for a couple yards, kind of move the chains. But this guy, he could literally. He's one big play away from gashing, and he was that. Having that touchdown. Well, I think it was like 4 minutes ago in that game. That essentially was the nail in the coffin for for the Rams. So you have that type of ability, especially in that terrain, and that's what made this game very scary, and just shows you kind of the multiple diversity they have with that. I think Jalen Hurts, he only had like 120 yards. I think he went like 10. I think he only threw the ball like 15 times. I think, or 20 times. I forgot what was his matter of fact, because I had it written down. I think last week he because he was 15 for 20. Let's see. Yeah, 15 for 20 and 128 yards on Sunday. So you think even in the spite of that, you have a home run hitting guy of that. And then I think and then the nightcap on Sunday, once again, turnovers. You paying double because you look at another one where obviously Lamar threw the interception, and then he threw. Then he also had the fumble.
The fumble, yeah.
But he played good enough in that second half to overcome it.
Right.
But but that's where it comes down the line when it comes to those turnovers and how you able to pay, because he had the opportunity to win his football game, and one of the primary reasons why Derrick Henry didn't get much, because they were trailed for pretty much all the game. They were down 21-10 going into halftime, so it's kind of hard to kind of get him integrated in a sense in that. But to me, still, he's another one where he's a home run hitter. So it's like, hey, I would give him, on a burn from at least in those type of drives. To me, and we'll talk about the failed 2-point conversion, which this would have put this game in overtime, and we could be talking about a different story. Yeah, that falls on Mark Andrews. You had he threw it right to you. If you have possession, you got to hold on to that football. Like, I can understand if he overthrew him, he had no chance to catch that football. The ball was in his hands. That's for him. He threw it to him, and it was in the back. It was in front of the end zone. All Mark Andrews had to do was just catch it and just fall down. He's in there. He's already in the end zone. He's already there. So, and I know a lot of people. I know like a guy like Chris Sims saying that he did the pump fake and he did all this. I'm like, but still, Mark Andrews had possession of that football and he didn't hold tight on the play. And it is what it is. It's just that's just how it happened. And he could have, but and I'm looking at it now where if because he could have potentially got stopped if Lamar Jackson would have ran. So it's kind of one of those things where he had a guy like a Mark Andrews wide open. And I understand he did the pump fake so he could sell it. Because that's where, like as far as what Chris Sims said, well, why he pump fake? Because he's a runner. Because to throw them off. That's why Mark Andrews was wide open.
That's why
because everybody probably so that's why I hated Chris Sims' take on that, because I'm like, that's essentially why Mark Andrews was wide open, because if he did pump fake, somebody would have been on him. They were guarding the run because I think that's another thing where people was expecting. It's like think about it, and it's just that to compare him to Michael Jordan, but like, hey, who would get the last shot in the game? It's gonna be Michael Jordan. So of course you're gonna do your best to kind of guard Michael Jordan, or at least do something as far as from the inbound perspective, try to get the inbound person to confuse them or what have you. And so that's what so it is what it is. But it was a great weekend of football, man. It was all these games came down essentially to a few plays. Obviously, you look at, obviously the only one that really wasn't close was the Washington versus Detroit, but pretty much everything else it was going to the fourth quarter. But
there.
Yep.
The Ravens versus the Bills. If you look at the team stats, Ravens should have won that game from top to bottom, except for the time of possession, the score, and the turnovers. The turnovers would really hurt them. But they everything else they is, when you look at it, you say, damn, they should have won this game. You know what I mean? They was coming back to win the game. I hear you're perfectly right. I just think people forgetting, because they so used to throwing the ball. When you see snow, it's awkwardness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember the Steelers played in the snow the Cleveland Browns. And the Browns, what they did was they brung in 3 tight ends, and it was smaller passes. You know what I mean? And it's because it was snowing so much, they took advantage of it. A small slants with your tight ends is almost somewhat like running the ball. You know what I mean? I just feel like the Eagles, like you said, they knew exactly what they needed to do because the snow was coming. You know what I mean? And then that one run with Saquon Barkley just sealed the deal. And that's what's supposed to happen. You know what I mean? Because you're playing in the snow, and this dude is fast as hell, and he can run through a damn wall. And them linemen ain't trying to deal with that. You know what I mean? He get just a little bit of room, he out. Reminds me of, Terry McLaurin. I want to mess his name up. I always mess his name up. When he got that pass and he ran through those 2 defenders. You know what I mean? Like, once he got to going, he was like, man, I'm not about to stop. I'm about to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was my take, is I just felt like it snowed, and I think they should have took advantage of the weather a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
And the Rams, they had a valiant fight. They had a shot to win the football game. Obviously, didn't go their way. So, as we now advance to Conference Championship Sunday, now there are 4 teams. We got the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles, and then we have the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. What is first? We'll do your storylines to watch in this one.
The Chiefs and the Bills.
All of them, just the whole championship Sunday.
All
Yeah,
of them. I got you.
yeah.
I put down with will the Bills be able? Um, what did I say? Wild card gonna be. I said, will the Bills be able to beat the Chiefs and the refs? Um, I said, did the Bills already win a Super Bowl? Because it was all this big thing about Lamar and Josh Allen, and I'm like, how can I say? It's like those moments, like you know what I mean. Like Kansas City has been there before, you know what I'm saying. The Ravens have played around with it before, so I'm like, when the Bills played Kansas City in the regular season, they beat them back. They beat them, you know what I mean. And it almost came off like it was easy. So I want to see if I said that they already the Bills already have their Super Bowl. The Commanders. Um, this one I said who will win the third game because they split.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, and I said will Jaden Daniels lead and keep this team focused and poised, and then I said will Jalen Hurts injury hurt him in this game, and will Saquon? Then I put will Saquon Barkley be the factor because I feel like that is why they got him. You know what I mean? I feel like they got Saquon Barkley so they can have an extra option to get them to the Super Bowl and win.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah. Yeah. He was the missing ingredient.
He was the missing ingredient, right?
Yeah.
We will see,
'Cause
though. We will see.
yeah, and they have always have had good running backs, but they've
Mm-hmm.
never had a guy like Saquon Barkley. Like
Mm-mm.
yeah. So that's huge. So
Yeah.
first I talk about and I do it in order. So to me, it's the biggest headline NFC Beast, where obviously we look at. I always look at this as the best division in football. Now you look at it. Will be the fifth matchup of two NFC East teams playing each other in the NFC Championship. So the last
Right.
time this has happened, this was actually in 1986, when the
Ooh,
Giants
wow.
lost to the Redskins, and when the Giants beat the Redskins 17-0 on their way to win the Super Bowl when they beat Denver that year. And crazy thing about it, in those four matchups, the home team has won all four of those games, so they're 4-0. Obviously, we already kind of went through the historical significance of Washington making it to the NFC Championship game. I think the biggest thing is, like you said, who will win that third game. The health
Mm-hmm.
of Jalen Hurts, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously you look at some guys that former guys on this team. Obviously, you look at Zach Ertz now going back to Philly, and then also you look at how effective Jahan Dotson will be in this game. Obviously, a former commander now with the Eagles. So
Mm.
how he'll affect that pass game. And that's one thing you just look at it where, these two teams, you know, and how Washington will use their experience. I think a lot of people fail to realize, like, Dan Quinn has been here before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of one of those things where, he led Atlanta in this, in this predicament. Obviously, him being with Seattle all those years as defensive coordinator, they've, been in it. So, and I think that's what you said, where they get that. I wouldn't say like overexcited, but they're like not humble, but more so, hey, it's the one game at a time mentality where nothing really gets ahead of them. And like I said, it didn't feel like even in that win, like you said, as far as how Buffalo was, where it's like was it Washington Super Bowl? No. People thought
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay was our Super Bowl, but no, they kept on
Right.
going
Right.
and what
They
have
kept
you.
going.
So
Yeah.
that's one thing too, where you look at it where they're not like most of us fans. They're not just satisfied to get here. They want to win this football game. And I
Right.
think you can just tell. And that's another thing where Dan Quinn has brought that culture here, where you had guys who, I know if you was on that team last year, yeah, you didn't have the type of feeling. So you look
Right.
at that concern, and And it's another one going in the AFC. This is avenging. Kansas City avenge their really only true loss, because I don't count Week 18 as a
Right.
loss. I mean, even though they did finish 15-2, but Patrick Mahomes didn't play in that game. Essentially,
Right.
that was Carson Wentz, aka Prince Harry, playing. I don't really count that because it was what at one point it was like 31-0. It was a blowout. So
Yeah.
pretty much that was their only really, in my personal opinion, loss that Patrick Mahomes on the field. I put it that way. I just put it that way. So can they avenge that? And it's weird because Buffalo has been really good against Kansas City in the regular season, but we know that's not the case. And then you think to yourself, they're the reason why we have the current overtime rules, because obviously now back then it's like, hey, if you just scored, if you because what ended up happening, because I gotta remember how that went. But anyway, that's the new playoff rules. Overtime was because of Buffalo, because Buffalo didn't get an opportunity to combat Kansas City in that game. So you look at it from that standpoint. Now it's the AFC Championship game. This is kind of the matchup that we all been kind of waiting for. I know, before Baltimore came in and to play last year, but there's something that we've been looking forward to for the last 3-4 years, where we thought this is going to be something that we were going to see every single year. But now, now you have other teams in the fray. So this is going to be one of those where it's going to be a great matchup. This is going to be one of those where, it's one of those things where it's can Josh Allen play turnover-free football like he did last week? And and that's one thing too, where it's kind of one of those where with Josh Allen, and that's why I tell people, like, I understand how people look at Josh Allen, but like when he's on, he's on. But you can really say that for anybody. But like I said, I still would take a guy like a Josh Allen who, because when he's on, he's on. So, but you can say that for pretty much any quarterback in this league, but he still is, when he don't turn that football over, you can see what he can do. So, I'm really curious how this all gonna play out, and how, and this is gonna be two great games, and obviously if Kansas City makes it, obviously that'd be their third consecutive Super Bowl appearance and trying to go for a three-peat, which would be obviously would be the huge storyline coming into Super Bowl week next week, well, in 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, so 2 tickets will be punched to New Orleans for Super Bowl 59, and 2 of these 4 will make it, and it's gonna be interesting Sunday. Put it that way.
Right.
Yep. Right. So
I'm with you. No, go ahead. I'm with you.
All right. So who are your individual players to watch in all 4 of these matchups?
I got Khalil Shakur, and I got Kareem Hunt and Kelsey. Of course, Patrick Mahomes and the refs. I'm just kidding, but and I think Jaden Daniels was everybody got to really see how good he played. So I think Robinson Jr. is going to show out this one. Like this one, I think he's going to really. I think they're going to use him a lot more this game, and I put Barkley and Brown. You know what I mean? I think Jalen Hurts gonna really have to use them. And so to me, when I watch the Eagles, I feel like everything is through him because he is the quarterback. But if you can contain him, because he's going to want to run, he's going to want to. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you can contain Jalen Hurts, you can beat them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you can get. I think he's the main thing. I think that's why I think rather than him, they don't like how when people run the ball they really establish the run. I don't think they do that. I think they they establish a run in multiple ways. You know what I mean? And I think if you could tame Jalen Hurts to make him have to throw the ball, I think you could beat them.
Sure. I think in Washington, I think obviously, outside of like Jaden Daniels and what have you, I want to see how this offensive line is going to play. Obviously, without having Sam Cosmi in the lineup, now you going to have Trent Scott. So want to see how he does, especially against that really vaulted defensive line that Belichick has, that Philly has. Zach Ertz, like I talked about earlier, he's another key guy, another one that has NFC championship Sunday experience. Another guy in this locker room that has championship experience and has developed, I call it a championship-like culture in Washington. So you definitely want to see what he does, especially against his old team, and it's going to be interesting how that will play out. Mikey Sandstro, coming off that 2 interception performance last week in the divisional round. I think now, you look at coupled with Marshawn Lattimore, you're looking at a fairly decent cornerback duo that could definitely, if it becomes a passing game where, those guys will be tasked with Devontae Smith and also AJ Brown. So, will they kind of step up to that task? Because obviously I think a lot of people looked at, that was going to be the biggest mismatch in the games. Obviously, you look, against Detroit, we had Amon St. Brown and Jameson Williams. But anyway, and then you look at Philly. Definitely, like you talk about Saquon. I want to see definitely my Springer brethren, Mekhi Becton, what he's going to do on the right guard, what he's going to do as far as give opportunities, and how we'll be able to kind of penetrate that line. Definitely, what we got. And we have, I know a lot of people talk about Philly's defensive line. But I think we got a fairly decent line as well too. So you look at guys like our guy Cleveland Farrell, which I think he's going to play. I forgot what was his status at practice today, but more likely he'll play. Then you look at Dorrance Armstrong on the other end. You got Dante Fowler Jr., John Allen, and Deron Payne. So I think we got a legitimate shot to get on, to kind of stop that penetration on the O-line. So I definitely think we can do that as well. And then in the nightcap, Isaiah Pacheco, what he's going to do running wise, like I said, Kareem Hunt. And then you look at that wide receiver core. Obviously, I want to see, obviously, it's another one where, Kelsey had a wide open touchdown in that game against Houston. Guys like Noah Gray, because, they spread the wealth around. So, looking at that tight end set with Kelsey and Gray, how that's all going to kind of play in this game. And then defensively, then for Buffalo, obviously, to me, Josh Allen, obviously, Greg Russo, that D-line with Ed Oliver, Matt Milano, and also that secondary. I think they're going to, kind of pose a threat potentially for Pat Mahomes. But and then also like James Cook, what he's going to do in this run game, because it's another one I think where the run is going to be, the run is going to be, kind of a key for both the success for both of these teams, either for Kansas City or Buffalo. So we'll have a great championship Sunday. So round out our preview, we got to give our picks for our conference championship Sunday. So in the NFC Championship, we got the Eagles and the Commanders. What you got?
I'm going with the Commanders, man.
All right. Yeah, you already know what I got. Of course, I got the Commanders.
It's just something different about the Commanders. It just ain't the Redskins. It's something different, man. It ain't the same.
Like I've told family members this, and I can't explain what happened Saturday. Saturday was kind of one of those games where it was like for us to commit 5 turnovers, something that we really don't do. it's unaccustomed for us to have those type of opportunities to turn the football over, go off to a big
Right.
lead, control the time of possession. I just said it. This team is a team of destiny, and I've always even said on other shows I've been on. Shout out to the NFC Beast. This team
Right.
is the ultimate Cinderella, and midnight has not struck on this football team. The stuff that has happened in these last 2 weeks are unexplainable. This is stuff that you always, in theory, always when I was doing a weekly show about the Commanders, this type of stuff that we always talked about for the 3 years we did it, and now it's, in a weird way, it's all coming to fruition, and that's why I can't from an analytic standpoint just to tell you how this happened. It's just unexplainable. It is unreal what's going on in Washington, and it's just something that I cannot put, from a logical standpoint, all this stuff happening all at once. And to me, it's just, I think it's just something where it's just like, hey, be patient. The man upstairs told us, hey, be patient. And this is, hey, he gave us an opportunity. And we became patient. And it's just one of those things where it's divine intervention. I can give you, analytics, analysis,
Right.
whatever. But to me,
Right.
this ain't nothing but God.
I got one for you, and I know we doing our picks, but like I'm a Steeler, and there was a point of this season where we were feeling the same way. You know what I mean? And something
Mhm.
happened where it almost feel like ego and people was out of position. You know what I mean? And what I think what's going on with your team is everybody's in their position and they're trusting each other. And that's, you know what I mean, from ownership all the way down. Like when you having the success that y'all have, and y'all come off like y'all like it's like they tried to bully y'all too. And like they hit Jade in a certain way, and then a line or somebody, there was about to be a scuffle. He jumped up, tapped the other team, and got his teammates said, "No, man, blah blah blah," because that's how you in the undercard or people that supposed to. That's how they lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they lose focus on what they supposed to do. You playing football. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna be able to get the person back. I think that's when I'm seeing that, I'm like, man, they're gonna mess around and
Yeah.
something really, because guess what, man? Truth be told, I know we gotta move on, but truth be told, ain't he can easily beat the Eagles. They can easily beat those other two teams. I'm just being honest. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And the thing about it, and having like a guy like a Jaden Daniels who doesn't get rattled. And I think that's the
who
key.
doesn't get rattled?
And like to
You know?
me, and the thing about it, because to me, it reminds me of just imagine like you being on a plane and you're headed
Mm-hmm.
towards turbulence. You're going through some stuff in the air. If your stewardess
Right,
freaks out, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna freak out. But if the stewardess is
right.
calm, well, I guess do you call them stewardess at this point? I don't know if it's from a PC perspective, but you look at it from that perspective where he gives me even a calmness as a fan. There's really that
Yeah.
as much as anxiety has been in the last, in quite some time. But so just like we talk about the stewardess on a plane that's calm even in
Mm-hmm.
the midst of a storm or amid a turbulence, you have that gives you a peace of mind to say, hey, if he or she's not tripping, then I shouldn't. And the same thing go, I think, with Jaden, where I think
Right.
he just roll with the punch and keep going. So yeah, I got the Commanders, obviously, duh. I mean, but anyway, so then on the nightcap, we got the Bills and the Chiefs. Who you got in this matchup?
I'm going with the Chiefs. I think you, in some type of way, you already see the future. You know what I mean? We already know what, like you said, long as he don't turn the ball over, and just like last week with the Commanders and the Lions, anytime golf got pressure on him, it was an issue. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think the same thing is going to happen to Josh, and I think Josh is going to get rattled, and he's going to say, "I'm not throwing this ball anymore. I'm going to run." You know what I mean? And they're going to make him to the point that he's going to have to throw the ball, and that's when they're going to start INTing. Like he's going up against the Chiefs, man.
Yeah.
And
And I'm going to stick with my preseason prediction. Mhm.
go ahead. I'm good.
All right. So I'm going to stick with my preseason prediction. I did have the Chiefs winning the AFC. So I'm going to keep it. I got the Chiefs as well. But I do yearn for the Bills to win. And we can have a rematch in Super Bowl 26. And it would be interesting because now you think to yourself, everything goes back to 1991. And you look at the most wins that the team has had since 1991.
Right.
The first time they went to a conference championship game since 1991, and then you're playing the Buffalo Bills, and you know, and then also what would be crazy too, and so the Bills play the Eagles, and there'll be another one where just imagine if the Bills lose that Super Bowl. Think about it. They will lose to every if the Bills to lose to the Eagles in the Super Bowl, the Bills will lose 5 Super Bowls, and all they lost came to NFC East teams. That would be wild.
Yeah.
Like because obviously they lost twice to Dallas, they lost once to the Giants, and then they lost one to us. So yeah, I mean, and then and then this is crazy. Get this. So one was Super Bowl 26 when Dallas, well, not Dallas, but what's it? I think it was the might be Super Bowl 27, but anyway, 1991 Super Bowl. So that was January 26, 1992. What day is Championship Sunday? January 26.
Wow.
Crazy. And I might mess around with. I'm so old. You remember like back in the 90s, they used to have these little pins that you could wear on your shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Remember like the little pins that you can and like they got like little thread type ones, and you just kind of you tuck it in. Matter of fact, I got it right here. I'm gonna let me grab it because it's only gonna take me like 2 seconds. Yep, because I got it. I'll show it to you. All right, yeah, Super Bowl 26. Like one of these. Yeah, I'm wearing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah. January 26, 1992. So
that's crazy.
Crazy. Wow. If that happens. But history. Wouldn't that be something if Washington and Buffalo win their games on January 26, 2025, 33 years later, determines the matchup for Super Bowl 59.
33 years.
Super Bowl rematch of Super Bowl 26. And then what's crazy, it snowed in Louisiana last week. I mean, no, yesterday it snowed in Louisiana, Tuesday. Right. And we played in Minneapolis in 92. That's telling you, man. And we playing in the dome, and if it snow again, I'm telling you, man, it's gonna happen. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
I can't wait. Look, I cannot wait for the Commander fans to blow. Y'all are holding it in, boy. I went to the Dollar Tree. Lady said, "You see that game?" I said,
"Oh yeah."
Oh, I could hear it in your voice. I can't wait. I can't wait.
But it's been fun. Like it's crazy because like obviously being around, people be
Right.
making jokes about the team and how bad they are, and now you look at fast forward. Oh man, y'all doing good. This and the third. I'm like, huh?
You can't hate on them. You like the team. Like you like Jaden. You can't hate on it. Like y'all did nothing. Y'all just played straight up. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was
Boy,
looking
right.
at the line. Yeah, y'all didn't do anything. I just went straight forward. And I was like, man, blitz. Y'all ain't even really blitz. Y'all just I was like, yo,
Yeah,
that's anyway.
yeah. Yeah, they don't really blitz like talking about it. I know they. I forgot. I want to say.
It's physical
I think
though.
we like at the 17%. I think we only blitz like 17%
But
of the
y'all
time.
was
I forgot
hitting.
what.
You,
Oh, for sure.
I was watching with my dad. And y'all was hitting. Like I said, man, do you see how they hit? And I said, they run into you, boom, and just walk away. They don't say nothing to you. They didn't cheer. They give a high five. They were so poised and focused. I'm telling you, man, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, but yeah. So, yup. So that rounds out our picks and our championship Sunday preview. So we'll put a bow on tonight's Couch Coach Live. First, we're gonna do our game ball. Who gets this week's game ball for you?
Well, I'm giving our game ball to our Scorpio brethren from Hopewell that has won the national championship with Ohio State, Trayvon Henderson. Congratulations, man.
Yes, indeed. And I'm gonna stay kind of Buckeye centric. I gotta give my game ball to Kirk Herbstreit, aka Herbie. Obviously at the end of the broadcast, he did have you know, became emotional at the broadcast, and then obviously the
Hmm.
reason of it, just the fact of everything that is going through in his life this year. Obviously, we know about the passing of his dog in November. Then obviously his son, who actually had heart failure. And so
Mm.
Ryan did kept him on the Ohio State staff, and he actually had the opportunity to wear his uniform during the national championship, and then also Herbie also discussed that his wife was going through a battle with cancer. So he had an outpouring of emotion. I think that's one thing too. I think it's just you because you feel for him because you think to yourself, man, he does all this stuff. You think to yourself, I don't even really think does he even have like 48 hours in between, obviously doing Amazon on Thursday night and then doing college football on Saturdays. And then you just imagine having that cycle week in and week out and then having all these things happen. And then now the culmination of this year and then, having the outpouring emotion. And I think that's one thing too, where hey, it just comes out. And I think one thing too, where I think I'm glad now we've got to a point where it's okay to kind of have some emotion and to realize, hey, yes, I am a human. I do go through things, and and I think that was perfectly fine of that because obviously so just and that's probably was like his only kind of way. I think and with everything that's going on and just his rough schedule, I couldn't imagine having to deal with all that and having his type of schedule. And I know people say, "Oh, well, people work and go through it," but his grind is a little bit different than most of us. At least, hey, most of us we can, we get off at a certain time. Just imagine you're in Cincinnati, on a Thursday night, you got to go
Mm.
to Corvallis, Oregon for an 11 a.m. meeting, and
Right.
then doing college game day probably in Corvallis, and then what if he got to go like to Tallahassee, Florida for a Florida State game? And literally, he could
Right.
be in
Right.
three places within a 48-hour period. So so he that's different. It's extremely
Right.
different. So just for him to have that, if they had an outpouring of emotion, it's just something that to me, hey, he gets his week's game ball, and I think that's just one of the things where I think now people have really realized it's okay to have emotions and to cry if you need to, because I think that was his moment. I mean, you
Right.
know. But shout out to Herbie.
Yeah, man. Shout out to him, man.
Yeah. So, all right. So before we head on out, any final thoughts before we head on out tonight? So final thoughts and then social media, what you got going on, and everything, and all that.
Man, final thoughts. Great show. Um, yeah, man. Just waiting for to see what's gonna happen this weekend with these games, and you know, uh, yeah, man. Great show. Social media: Deshaun Morgan, Facebook, DT Morgan 78, Instagram. Um, you know, I'm here.
Yeah. All right. So once again, another great show. It's gonna be a very historic weekend, in my personal opinion. So just looking forward to it. Like I said, to open the show. I've been waiting for this moment all my life. So to have this pretty much there, you know, so it's just going to be really interesting few days, and just looking forward to it. I think that's the thing about it. There's a calmness. It's not even a inkling of like nervousness or whatever. But it is what it is, and and just enjoy the moment. So so pretty much social media wise, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram under Couch Coach Live. Also, the website couchcoachlive.com. We'll be having some stuff up there. Once we have that posted, we'll have that on the social media network where you can check that out on there. Think that is it. So obviously you can check out the podcast anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify. We're there. And then the website couchcoachlive.com. And So this wraps up this week's Couch Coach Live, man. We'll catch you guys next week. And we're out.
You're welcome.